everybody! I am Josheb, and I am joined here today by my wonderful companion, my compatriot, my contemporary, one 5 times award-winning swimsuit model, Mr. Dreadnought.
How's it going, Josheb?
Man, it's going so good. This week I'm feeling healthy. I'm feeling amazing. I'm really ready to cast some heroes, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, not gonna get that cough going that we had last week, so that's gonna
No,
be good. And hopefully, moving past those audio issues that we walked into, today's gonna be a good day.
Bro, I cannot tell you the excitement to not have to constantly worry about just grossing everyone off the stream with like constant coughing and stuff. Like, just being healthy. I feel great. I feel wonderful.
Good.
The games actually are going to be starting like right away. I'm being told that the draft is almost ready to get started. So as soon as they give me that link, we'll be ready to jump in. But I think this is going to be a fast-paced day of incredible games, Dreadnought.
Absolutely. No, I agree. It's going to be awesome. And do you have contact with the team?
I do. I'm actually actively conversing with them right now. They're very excited to get started.
All right. I just wanted to make sure, but yeah. All right, so we're going in. The first game that we're going to be casting here today, I believe, is going to be, we have the Mile High Club versus the Divine Nine.
Correct. So we have some very spiritually sound people going against what I can only assume are airline pilots or aircraft hobbyists.
Yeah, no, definitely. Also, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, one thing for this tournament that is going to be a little bit different from last week. Greymane is actually not going to be available because there was a bug on his level 1 talent Perfect Aim.
My understanding is that Greymane himself is allowed, but they're not allowed to choose that talent.
The talent, yes, sorry. Yes. Yeah, you're correct. So the level 1 talent Perfect Aim, the bug with it is essentially applies double damage, really rare frame part. So it's going to be disabled for this tournament here. Other than that, everything is going to be the exact same that we saw last week. We're going to see teams trying to make it to the top 2 teams so they can make it to the qualifiers, which will be the LAN at the end of this month. I believe it's late February, right? It's like the last week. The LAN will be there in California. It's going to be an awesome event. And everybody here's battling for it, Joshua.
They absolutely are. We had 2 teams rather, that made it in last week. Every one of these qualifiers is going to have 2 teams that are seeded into that gigantic, exciting tournament. As far as things that we want you to be aware of course, throughout the tournament, we'd love for you to be tweeting with the hashtag HGC. That's Henry Gary Coleman. HGC, as well as at Esports Heroes, for all of the feedback that you'd like to give, whether it's I really enjoyed those games, I think Dreadnought and Josheb would be great in a sitcom together if Blizzard would like to give the money for that. Just anything that you'd like to contribute in the way of feedback, we'd love to hear it on that Twitter. Also, for all the information, you can go to heroesofthestorm.com/esports. Great news site there. In addition, they've been posting the VODs every week on that site as well in the weekend review. And we'd love to get your feedback about how the games are going. In the meantime, I know everyone is excited about Li Ming. She's not allowed in this week's version. I know I personally feel like she is amazingly tuned. Whenever I am playing as Li Ming, I feel like that she doesn't need any changing. I feel like she is exactly where she needs to be. Consequently, I do feel like when I'm playing against her, though, she feels a tad strong. But only when I'm playing
just a little
against
bit.
her.
I mean, the whole time you're just sitting there just like, can I get the reset? Please, just one reset. But no, yeah, she will not be available for this tournament, which is going to bring a really interesting draft play this tournament, Joshua. The most important thing, in my opinion, for this tournament is going to be who understands the draft on this new patch the most, who understands what the draft is the best here in this tournament this week. So what are some hot topics that weren't so big last week? Let's start out the gates. Rhaegar,
I was
huge,
just gonna
huge
say.
pickup. Huge pickup here. So one of the things we saw with the Divergent Gaming Amateur Tournament 2 days ago that was going to be played on this current patch as well is that it kind of became that everybody was like, okay, well, if we let Li Ming through the draft, we're going to let Rhaegar through the draft, and we're going to get one of the two. And teams were trying to figure out what they prioritize more than the other, right? So a lot of teams were kind of going back and forth on what they thought was the best decision-making between those two. With Li Ming out of the picture, who is going to risk... It's essentially Rhaegar is now this chokehold point, right?
Yep.
And the draft where we're going to see a majority of the first teams let it go through, and second team is going to be forced to ban it, giving the first team first pick advantage a much stronger advantage, in my opinion, this patch, at least for the current situation of the quote-unquote meta. So it's going to be really awesome to see how that plays out.
You could not be more correct. Did you have a chance to watch any of the European qualifiers yesterday?
I didn't actually. That's sadly
Rhaegar was first pick, first ban in every game that I
game.
watched. In every game.
No,
and it's
he's
funny,
really, really strong.
It's funny how it evolved throughout the evening, because at the beginning, people weren't first banning him, but he was first pick for like the first 10 games. And he's so strong right now. Those lightning talents, they're tuned.
It's the 16 is when it snowballs. Like all the other ones are pretty good, and his healing is obviously great. The lunge, his damage, everything about him is increased for sure from last week. But definitely the thing that separates him from this week to the other week was definitely his 16 Rising Storm, I believe is the name of the talent. It's just an absolute absurd amount of damage. I was playing a game the other day where I got soloed as Li Ming by Diablo because he had that talent on him, and he double suplexed me and proceeded to kill me because I couldn't walk away from him. I was actually one of the most depressing things, but I was like, holy cow, this dog is so strong. But yeah, I agree. That's going to be a huge change. Some other major changes that came into play from last week is going to be Lunara. She's something that we're going to see possibly being a hot topic. Really great spread damage, decent amount of wave clear. I think Poke might be the name of the game with Rhaegar off the table, and then Uther being one of the next kind of go-tos as well. Also, keep in mind, with the Rhaegar pickup and Li Ming being banned, it's essentially, I was going to make a comment about Li Ming's wave clear, but I forgot she's actually not going to be a part of this tournament. So really a lot of it, I think you're going to see those two are going to be, in my opinion, probably some of the most changed. I think we're going to see a lot of Stitches-esque comps. I think C9 running that last week is something that a lot of people are going to kind of, great artists imitate, or good artists imitate, great artists steal kind of thing. They're going to be looking to try and copy that fish in the barrel strat. But other than that, I think a lot of the drafts we're going to see being pretty similar to the last one. Maybe a couple small changes here and there, like maybe a falling sword on Johanna. But
there's one hero that you have not mentioned yet that we saw a couple of times. No. But he's on my radar, because if you throw the Rising Storm onto Illidan and he sticks on people, it could be curtains. But in the European tournament yesterday, we did see Cho'Gall show up more than once.
Oh, yeah. No, and also at the Divergent Gaming, Cho'Gall was a threatening point. Was most of them ran with an upheaval, or did they run with Twilight and then they ran Nether?
I think we saw a little of both. We certainly saw the hammer come out. I think that may put a priority on Kharazim if Rhaegar is banned out, just because of the 7-sided strike capability, how quickly you can burn through, around 50% of that health pool. I'm interested to see. There's going to be a lot of mind games in the drafts today. I love seeing like the cerebral nature of the drafts whenever the meta changes up. Like, I think, as you pointed out, with Rhaegar being so powerful, it's going to be interesting what people position to try and grab Rhaegar as their first pick. Like, who's more threatening than Rhaegar right now? I don't think there is a hero that is more important than him at the moment.
With Li Ming off the table, essentially he is just now a god among men, really. There's not much that anybody else can do as a slight response to him. He does have a couple of downsides when it comes to the drop, but not too many, honestly. Things like he doesn't necessarily dominate in wave clear. He does accent it a little bit as a support, being able to wave clear, but like he usually on smaller 1-4 maps, that's like, he is honestly pretty good at wave clearing compared to most supports, so even then it's not really that big of a disadvantage. Other than that, he has pretty much nothing kind of going against him. Especially, like I said, with Li Ming off the table. So I think there's going to be a lot of chokeholds around Kael'thas and Rhaegar himself to see who can do what. One interesting thing that I saw during the Divergent Gaming Amateur Tournament was also people were using Rhaegar as a response to dominant solo laners like Thrall. And essentially separating their wave clear and just put him in a 1v1 skirmish, which, to be totally honest, at the top level of play, I don't know if that plays out as smoothly as it did in the tournament. I think he does have a hard time dying, but I feel like his wave clear would be a little bit weak and he would still lose the lane overall in the long run. But I mean, Rhaegar is such a beautiful meta shift that is going to be really awesome to see how teams play it out. And I think right now we're kind of just seeing like the taste of where it's going to go. I definitely don't think the meta has shifted far enough to from this patch. It's just everybody knows that he's really strong, and the strategies with and to counter him are kind of being played around with right now.
The last week we saw a fair amount of Sonya, and with the tuning changes to focused assault or focused attack, like, do you feel like we're going to see the same amount of Sonya, or do you think people are going to pull away from her in favor of other assassins? Like, do you think we're going to see the same amount of Sonya this week?
I think you'll see less Sonya. She definitely does have a pretty big nerf, not only with the focus attack, but then to her direct to her W. So
Yeah.
there are a little bit of things you can do to maybe compensate for the lack of damage that she in her build. I haven't played around with it too much, but overall, I definitely think you'll see a lower prioritization of her. With that being said, I don't think you won't see her. That's largely going to come down to the fact that Rhaegar is a great synergy with her and making her kind of spin to win playstyle possibly a little bit more effective with that Rising Storm talent at 16. So Sonya definitely might be somebody we see. I just don't think she will be as dominant, except for maybe with the synergy of Rhaegar. Also, with Rhaegar being such a hot topic, that makes Uther's prioritization a lot different as well. Uther and Rhaegar are considered to be the two healers that work really well with melee assassins, and now that we know that probably Rhaegar is going to be first pick, first ban in almost every game, means that Uther now becomes higher prioritization because he's the only one that can really pair extremely well with those melee assassins, which we know to see, like, for instance, with Thrall in the solo lane, you usually want the Uther or the Rhaegar to help him later, or you have Sonya as well. So it's going to be really interesting. Like I said, these drafts I feel like are going to make or break a lot of the games, especially once we get to the later halves of this bracket.
Speaking of the draft, it has just begun with Divine 9 having the first ban, and it looks like our first game today is going to be on the Battlefield of Eternity.
Yeah, it's going to be Battlefield of Eternity. We do have Divine 9, got to be first pick, first ban here. Like we said, and I've been harping up for the last couple of minutes here, Rhaegar is going to be the name of the game here in the early part of the drafts. I know I would like to see, I don't know if honestly, if I am in a first pick situation, if I'm willing to force my opponents, I would force them to ban the Rhaegar because I think he is significantly stronger than Kael'thas, even though Kael'thas is obviously a powerhouse here. So leaving both of those options open and then forcing them to ban one or the other, and most likely it will be Rhaegar, and then taking the Kael'thas for free.
I agree with you, and I think that that's going to happen no matter what map we end up on, because as it turns out, it's not going to be Battlefield of Eternity, and with that, we head back to the two-shot.
Do we have a new draft already, or are we just
not
getting
quite
baited?
yet. We got baited a little bit, but you know what? I feel like my reflexes were strong. The feedback I'm going to give myself is I feel like I looked handsome as I was bringing up that draft, and I just need to keep that up throughout the day. Dread.
Oh, man. Yes.
Do you think that it matters what map we end up on, or is Rhaegar just so strong at this
He's
point?
universally strong.
Just universally strong.
Yeah, and it's like, because I was talking about that wave clear, right? And it's really the reason he is kind of universally strong. So like what I was going to try and talk about, which we have a little bit of time now, so I might kind of cover, is like how Li Ming, whether or not she's first pick, first ban worthy. And a lot of that comes down to understanding that if you do pick Li Ming, she struggles in the wave clear department. She doesn't have terrible wave clear, but she definitely doesn't excel at it. And in laning situations and maps where 1-4 strategies are essentially dominant, she is a first pick, first ban. If you do end up picking her, the rest of your draft has to be very concentrated on making up for the lack of wave clear that she has, right? Whereas Rhaegar, being the dominant hero as well, does not suffer from any of those problems because his W is essentially debatably the best or second best wave clear support has, other than possibly Moonburn from Malfurion at level 1. So really, when you're like, well, we lose a little bit of wave clear, honestly, for his role, he's probably one of the most dominant. So not only do you have the most dominant healer, a great skirmisher, diversity in the roles he can go, or lanes he can lane in, then you also have this weird situation where he also provides wave clear. So he is just universally, in my opinion, right now, going to be first pick, first ban.
And we'll see how true that comes to be as we are going into the first one. It looks like Zeratul is actually going to be the first ban.
Oh, man. Sorry, I don't have that draft link up. Hold on. I'm working on it. Zeratul?
Yeah, Zeratul was banned out by Divine 9, and it looks like Mile High Club is responding by banning out Morales. And if Divine 9 chooses to pick up Rhaegar right now, he is free, but no, they instantly lock in Kael'thas.
I mean, they don't care. The Zeratul ban, I honestly personally like. That's a play I would make in a team where I was more confident than my opponent. Towers of Doom is going to be the map as well. So keep in mind XP being the really relevant thing when it comes to this map, because those late game shots can be so snowbally. We see a hover possibly over Tyrande. Interesting choice, banning Lieutenant Morales, but then picking Tyrande seems a little bit counterintuitive there. They are going to lock into Diablo. I can say right out the gates, Mile High Club going with the aggression, but they do suffer the wave clear department. So let's see how Divine 9 is going to respond. Uther, Rhaegar, both soft counters-ish to the strat that they have going. But what do you got, Josheb?
I feel like I'm watching, like I've buried Or you know what? I've hidden Easter eggs is what's happened, and there's one that has a $100 bill in it, and I'm watching everybody scatter around the area where it's hidden, but no one's gotten it yet. And I'm just sitting here like, when is someone going to pick up Rhaegar? I know he's still available. I know. I mean, he's so strong right now. I don't know if they just haven't had the chance to play with him since the changes, but it looks like the priority is not on him. Is that Divine Nine's going to pick up Falstad as their next pick?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of this might come down to just maybe not understanding the strength of Rhaegar in the meta right now from these two teams. Obviously, they're probably some of the first time these teams have maybe competed. I know I personally don't recognize any of these names at all. Murden going to be the lockdown as well. Decent pickup there, not too surprising. Falstad with the global, I really like that in this map, largely just because, as I said, the XP is going to be so relevant on this map. And when I say that, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is mainly the fact that on this map specifically, if you lose the early shots, like the 4 shots and the miscapping, and you trade with your opponents and everything else in the late game, if you have a talent tier advantage over your opponents and the shrine spawns, you are inevitably going to be able to deny them both by forcing a fight, because this map forces so many fights. XP is absolutely colossally important on this map. And there we go. Rhaegar's going to be banned out. Crazier decision here, Josheb, is the team that had the next ban or pick option to pick up Rhaegar was the team who banned him. So I think that right out the gates, to me, that says number one, Mile High Club, they do not plan on running a different healer other than Tyrande at all. There is absolutely no way they would ban Rhaegar in that situation and then pick up a support later in their draft.
Now, if Mile High Club really wants to get cheeky here, they could pick up Uther, which would leave Divine Nine with Kharazim. I guess it depends on if they're going to have another divey frontline, but with Sonya being banned out, I don't see that necessarily happening, though Mile High Club is going to pick up Jaina, and it looks like Joanna as their next 2 pickups.
The Jojohana, man. She's going to be picked up here. Jaina with decent amount of wave clear as well. A double tank strategy here with the Diablo Tyrande. Jaina obviously providing a large amount of burst, but the sustained battle is the one they're going to struggle with here when it does come to the Mile High Club. Also, keep in mind, Falstad is going to be decent amount of disengage to force those long fights. If the Mighty Gust does come into play here, Malfurion picked up as well. As long as you get solid disengage from the Falstad and the long fights forced by Divine Nine, I really do fear for the comp of Mile High Club. Keep in mind, though, Mile High Club has great ability to snowball the map in their favor. Get a lot of early game picks. Tyrande, Pierce at level 4, really great interrupt for each one of the tributes here. So, honestly, I like the comp coming out from them. Again, the Rhaegar prioritization is definitely a little bit what I would consider off. But other than that, really, both of these teams taking smart comps, different styles, that as long as the other opponent, they don't let their opponents do whatever they want, they're going to get away with a win here. So.
I completely agree, and it looks like they are hovering over Tyrael, which I think is a good decision. I like all of the toolkit that Tyrael brings to this. Towers of Doom does have a fair amount of choke points, but it looks like they're looking at Thrall here as well, which is a great pickup. I feel like he is a good counter to both Jaina and Tyrande. I feel like the double frontline tanks of Mile High Club should be able to keep him at bay, though. It's really going to depend a lot on how he uses that Sunder.
Yeah, the Sunder is another great counter engage. So now they have 2 that's going to deal with the possible APOC. So here it's one of those. Right now, Divine Nine's got a great answer, right? So you're like, well, Diablo's going to come in. He's going to face roll. If he doesn't get the kill, they're going to have low amount of damage because they only have Jaina as a DPS right now. And they're looking for the Lili. I definitely feel like with the Rhaegar ban, I really disagree with that. At least force your opponents to get the Rhaegar ban if you are going to pick a support later in the draft here for Mile Club. So they essentially, Mile High Club now is sitting in a situation where they have only 1 damage dealer.
Yeah.
There are other, and then you're like, well, they'll just take Lightning Breath and they'll be able to deal damage that way. But the problem with that is the the immunity to CC that is provided by that is directly countered by Mighty Gust. So Lightning Breath comes out, you Gust, you proceed to kill the Diablo and laugh at his attempts. If he takes APOC, Sunder, great counter engage. Also, Mighty Gust still a great counter engage. As long as the Mile High Club does not snowball this game in their favor by 1 level or maybe a little bit more in the early half of this game, I very much feel like Divine Nine has this draft. As long as they don't get snowballed on, they disengage properly during the big cooldowns that, like, for instance, Diablo, maybe Ring of Frost as well, maybe even like a Falling Swords, Splash's Shield, whatever you see there, as long as they don't get the kill within first 3 seconds of the fight, Divine Nine's comp will win these team fights. So it's going to be really interesting to see how well My High Club can just snowball that lead.
I'm really, like, having been on teams like what the Mile High Club is running here before, I feel like, especially, like, Jaina is my lady. Like that is my character. I've played her up to level 20,
Hmm.
and I just feel like I'm already in a state of frustration as this Jaina because where's our damage? Like I can put out the damage, I can get people extremely low. In certain situations, I'm going to be able to solo people if the circumstances are correct. But with the team fights being so strong on Towers of Doom, especially in the later parts where you're going to be contesting those little altars, I don't know where your damage comes from. As you pointed out, with 2 supports and 2 tanks, like I feel like we're going to see a lot of engagements here where we're going to see Divine Nine win engagements and waddle away with super low health is how I see these fights going.
I agree with you. I think what Mile High Club's thought process was is that double tank comps are definitely usually team comps that can get away with a lot more. They can capitalize on their opponent's mistakes a lot more. For instance, if Malfurion messes up at all, he's just dead.
Mm-hmm.
Just all it takes is one flip before pre-13. Same with Kel'Thas before 16 as well. Falstead's usually pretty vulnerable. You can force him to gust. So they have a lot of options of like getting on heroes that can provide them to get the early kills. And the double tank with the massive amount of CC is kind of an answer to that. What I really feel like
Yeah.
they failed to underestimate is the counter engage. I think that's where they're kind of looking over it. Like their thought process, I agree. The lack of assassins is definitely a problem, but I think the biggest problem here is the fact that they didn't appreciate, well, we'll just take lightning breath and help sustain for that double tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of maybe not looking at the fact that if they do take lightning breath, there are soft counters to it by their opponent's team. And
Yeah.
if they take APOC, there's also soft counters as well. So I feel like they kind of just looked over what are good responses to Diablo with that pick there.
I agree with you. I also do feel like Mile High Club does have an extreme amount of survivability. However,
Yeah.
Kael'thas, until he gets his arcane barrier, is pretty squishy. Malfurion, of course, is pretty squishy. Falstad, notorious for being someone that can be bursted down very quickly if he doesn't manage to get the gust off or his barrel roll doesn't save him. Joanna and Diablo have respectable health pools, and with the healing from both Tyrande and Lily, I feel like Jaina is really the only target there that can be bursted down extremely quickly. Divine Nine, of course, does have a lot of damage, but depending on how well Lily and Tyrande can sustain the large health pool of their tanks, maybe it can be an Outlast type strategy, but I guess we'll see when we get into the game.
I'm calling it right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Water Dragon.
I could see that. I could definitely see Water Dragon going down.
I just can't see the justification of picking another support without one of them being absurdly offensive.
Mhm.
And obviously, Tyrande naturally fills that role, but just by going double tank and double support, they need to make up for it somewhere. I'm going with Water Dragon, Lightning Breath, or Starfall. I feel like one of those has to come out there, honestly. But I guess we're going to find out here. I'm going to let them know we're ready to go.
All right.
And I mean, it's just... it might not be Water Dragon, but like I said, it's got to come from somewhere, Josheb. It has to. It's either they have to snowball their lead, they have to, or they have to get those really fast picks, and hopefully Malfurion is not fast enough with like kind of the cleanse save situation there at all. And if that's the case, then they can still win this game. It's not like their comp's impossible to win with. It's just their room for error is so much smaller than their opponents and their comp that it makes me fearful for them.
I definitely could see that. I don't think that Starfall is necessarily the wrong talent here. Like you mentioned, the damage does have to come from somewhere. And both Lily and Tyrande do have abilities that are very devastating when you get in close quarters. And what map is more close quarters when it comes to the actual fights than Towers of Doom? Like the entire map is set up for like the closest team fights that you can possibly get. The choke points around the altars can be devastating if you set them up correctly. I feel like Thrall Sunder here, like it's going to be difficult not to hit every person on the Mile High Club if he waits to the opportune moment. Like there's nowhere for them to run. But by the same token, if she does go Water Dragon, if Tyrande does go Starfall, very similarly, that can hamstring Divine Nine and create situations where they can get some pickoffs that are going to turn the tide.
Absolutely.
Either way we go, I feel like we're going to see a really good game here. Both these teams are extremely hungry, as you mentioned earlier, Divine Nine and Mile High Club. Neither one has really had the opportunity to make a name for themselves. And what better stage, what better time than now, Dreadnought?
Exactly. No, definitely. And them coming out here to play is absolutely phenomenal. Putting themselves out here, trying to just play competitive HOTS, get better as a team, and develop is something that a lot of people have a hard time doing. So the fact that they're out here for both teams is going to be awesome. Trying to make themselves better players, I absolutely can completely appreciate them. One talking point that I do want to keep in mind when it comes to this draft and how this game's going to play out, level 4 Malfurion talent, I definitely feel like I need to see a rampant growth there. And if we don't, I feel like he's going to struggle quite a bit when it comes to keeping his team alive on this heavy burst-centric composition. Keep in mind, the only way they really lose team fights is a heavy pick and getting snowballed in the early half, and rampant growth is best response to that at level 4. So I definitely would like to see that coming up from the Malfurion here. Jason.
And out of curiosity, what level 13 talent do you think he should take, Trent?
Ice block? Don't even, dude. You know that it tilts me. Anything but ice block. Ice block, ice block, ice block. At 7, I think cleanse is the go-to, but I can see slight justification of not taking it. Just relying on his team's positioning. But overall, we're going to have a game on our hands here. Before this game starts, I need to close my door really quick, Josheb.
Yeah, I'll allow it. I do completely agree with what Dredd was saying. I feel like there are so many possible stuns on the Mile High Club that I feel like cleanse is actually probably a necessity. Could he get away with not taking it? Certainly, but I think the optimal play is definitely to pick up cleanse. Tyranda's Lunar Flare can be devastating, especially with all the follow-up that they have. But on the left side, let me go ahead and get us into game here. We do have Divine 9, and we're going to have Owl, aptly named on Falstad. We have Jason on Malfurion. We have Waqft on Kael'thas. We have Plague on Thrall. And we do have Greeper on our Muradin.
The right-hand side, I believe the right-hand team, is that Mile High Club?
It is indeed.
Okay. We have Mile High Club on the right-hand side in the red trunks here, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sad Panda. I actually do recognize that name. I believe is going to be on the Diablo. White Ice is going to be on the Lili. Thien Viel, I'm going to go with, is going to be on the Johanna. Noatepen is going to be on Tyrande. And last but not least, we do have LOL, I'm a Wizard on the Jaina. If you want to talk about awesome names, that's got to be perfect for the Jaina there. So
that's the best name I've seen in 2 weeks. I'm really excited, and wow, LOL, I'm a Wizard. I wonder if she plays any other assassins or if she just completely sticks to the range mages.
It's like, no, it's just Li Ming, Kael'thas, and Jaina. That's all she knows, you know? I mean, it's a rough life, but they do end up going here with a Mile High Club. Is going to run the 2-2-1 here. 2-1-2 strat typically being a little bit harder to pull off. I talk about that a lot in my casts and a lot of my stream. It's just a very difficult strat to pull off effectively, especially when you put the two lanes together. There you go, Diablo with the rotation down, trying to change things up with the
Lunar Flare does hit. They do manage to flip over Malfurion there. He does get Hunter's Marked, but he is going to be able to walk away. A little bit later into this game, however, if they face that similar combo, it is going to be much more difficult to walk away with that much health.
Absolutely, and you already see right out the gates Tyrande understanding how to use that Lunar Flare. Hitting it off the Condemn there from the Johanna, not as easy as it looks. Definitely not absolutely impossible, but showing mastery of her hero there. That is going to come in handy definitely in the later half of the game, being able to follow up on 2 different versions of CC rather than just the Diablo. The diversity out of the Tyrande player there is really going to help their comp excel here, but the first shrine is going to spawn. Keep in mind, the things to look at here, Falstad staying in the upper half of the map, how long he stays to rotate. Like I said, XP is more valuable on this map than almost any other here, Josheb.
It definitely is, especially that race to 4 can be so important right off the bat. LOL, I'm a Wizard. Spider sense is tingling here as she does manage to catch Malfurion hiding in the bushes. And we're going to have our first engagement here over the altars. It does look like right now Divine 9 does have a positional advantage. Great stun there to get the... Oh, Super Lunar Flare. Oh my goodness, that Blizzard absolutely wrecking Divine 9. You know, we said they didn't have the damage, but right now they are out to prove a point, and it looks like they're going to have the big advantage here as they try and get this altar. Good positioning here by Jaina. Great Lunar Flare onto that Thrall. Good Shadow Charge to go ahead and zone him out completely. It looks like the root comes out, but that is going to be the first altar for the Mile High Club.
Yeah, and that was really beautiful from LOL, I'm a Wizard there. Moving in there, abusing the Fog of War, waiting for his team to collapse. The Condemned came in, hit 5-man, using the passive on Johanna so she couldn't get interrupted with a follow-up Blizzard. Keep in mind, that was a 5-man, one wave of the 5-man Blizzard, and then the other wave hit 3 people at level 4 there, and that was without the increased radius. So that was a phenomenal flank there from LOL, I'm a Wizard. I definitely want to see her abusing the Fog of War like that more and more as this game goes on. I think it's going to really help her out, as long as she doesn't isolate too much with the Mighty Gust there, but... really good job there from her. We do see teams prioritizing the Mercs at this point. Really smart decision making because of how valuable the Mercs are on this map in the early game. Just getting that structural lead, getting that experience lead over your opponents again to help you with those tributes later on.
I certainly agree. It looks like Divine Nine is the first team to take advantage of those mercs, and they do get down in time to finish soaking that lane. So neither team getting a really large XP lead as of yet, which is great because that means this is going to be a close game. As you mentioned, an XP lead can be oh so strong, especially as you're heading into 10, and we are getting closer. I believe we're going to have another set of altars before we get to 10, but subsequent altars are going to be a lot more messy.
And so things to look at this game is Kilthos ended up going with Gathering Power. We also see Malfurion running with Versatile as level 4, meaning that he did not take the Rampant Growth talent to help kind of help his team sustain that large amount of burst that his opponents have. Toronto going with the Pierce, really great delay from her. And also Jaina is going Arcane Intellect there. Something you kind of see was more prominent in Europe for some time. It just helps with her wave clear. Meaning she's not worried about the massive AoE blizzards. Obviously, if they can get them, she's going to try and get them. But overall, the wave clear she can provide for her team is really going to help out there with that. So really good pickup there. Johanna as well going with Amplified Healing. Not something we see every day there, but definitely not a bad talent. And it looks like all teams making the rotations at the same time here. So it's going to be a head-to-head battle here. Race of Seven's barely going to be won here by Mile High Club, Josheb. But this tribute is really going to kind of dictate the pace of the rest of this game.
And you know, you mentioned that she does have the Arcane Intellect, which is not going to give her the increased radius on Blizzard, but in that first fight we saw that she doesn't necessarily need it. If we have another great Blizzard like last time, there's one. Good Lunar Flare onto Thrall. Thrall is having to hobble away. Fantastic heals here coming out from the Mile High Club, managed to keep them up, and Divine Nine is again the team that seems to be a little on the retreat. They do manage to get Thrall pretty low. Thrall overextending, he is taken out, and that is going to have to cause Divine Nine to back off here. They're going to face more casualties.
Yeah, and it's that double healer, double tank coming in this early game with that Tyrande. She's hitting her stun, getting a large amount of burst on somebody. That team kind of backs out and splits. For instance, Murden took an absurd amount of damage there, decided to back out, try and tap well. During the meantime, Thrall goes back in to try and engage, and a little bit of a 4v5 skirmish, and it cost him his life. And it's really the simplicity kind of that double tank with that Tyrande and the double healer. They have a lot of room for error, I guess, when it comes to the early part of this game, because this early game fights is also with Malfurion not taking Rampant Growth, kind of not being able to kind of out-heal the early game burst that they have, and that sustain is really paying off in these early fights. Not exactly what I expected, honestly, from their comp, but they're showing me how it's done, honestly. Mile High Club doing really well here.
Certainly. It looks like the Divine Nine is choosing to stack that top lane. Originally, it was just Tyrande, who is going to be the weakest laner for the Mile High Club. I like the idea of stacking that. I like the idea of making sure that they get that. They just need to make sure that they're not losing any soak. If Joanna manages to clear that before they get back down, they're going to lose a fair amount of XP, but it does look like Falstad is going to position to make sure he's able to soak.
Yeah, and then on the top lane, the Gravity Lapse coming out on Diablo. He is going to walk away from this. They escort those right into the front wall. They're getting a turret advantage. In the race to 10, barely won by Mile High Club here. Talents coming in. Cleanse is going to come in for the Malfurion here. Jason trying to get that to deny the Diablo Tyrande or maybe Blessed Shield combo. Also, the march is on for Jojo, so that's going to be really... not necessarily a common talent pickup, but I like it. Lunar Flare increase, so Tyrande going to be able to follow up in accents very heavily on her team. If Diablo goes in far away, she will be able to follow up on that. And I'm really more interested about the level 10s here, Josheb, and how well they're executed. The engagement in the team fight, we harped a lot of it on when it came to the draft about who we felt like won at certain points. And honestly, Mile High Club has shown that their early game advantage is really kind of been pushed pretty well by getting the first 8 shots, but they haven't gained that much of an advantage, and they're just now getting level 10.
It does look like they are. I am aware that the observer that we're using is not updating the talents. We'll have to fix that before the next game gets started. But thank you, Dread, for reading those off, because our audience is not going to know what they pick unless you mention it, since that top observer is not working at the moment.
Just so everybody knows, it was Jugs, Blessed Shield, Starfall, APOC, and Ring of Frost. So they are going with the CC-oriented, heal-oriented, rather than any damage-oriented talent. From one of those supports.
And I feel like we were actually robbed of a 10 fight here, as both teams content to just completely trade the mid and bottom altars. So no engagement as of yet. We're not going to get a good sense of which team is going to utilize their ultimates better quite yet, as it does look like Divine Nine is falling back to take their mercs, and the Mile High Club has the same idea.
I mean, to be fair, that was a winning trade for Divine Nine, and the reason for that is mainly just because of how much their comp struggles in the early game. Yes, they did hit the 10 mark, but let's be honest, they don't really spike in power until that 13-16 slot. Oh, Jason on the bottom lane, though, getting engaged on Diablo Tyrande coming out, the Gust, the Ring of Frost, Trank coming out, and he's going to be... just deleted.
Yeah,
Josheb.
Malfurion, I believe there was a glitch where he existed in the game world for a moment. It has been patched and he is gone. Great attempt there from the Divine 9 to try and save him. But as we mentioned at the beginning, once that Shadow Charge stuff comes out later on in the game, it's going to be much harder to get away. It does look like Thrall is going to use his Sunder here as a counter engage, and it looks as though Siege is still going to be occurring here from the Mile High Club.
And one thing to keep in mind is they just burnt Tranquility, Mighty Gust, and Sunder. So they have 60 seconds. These shrines should spawn roughly right before that threshold. There it is. And now they are down 2 of their most influential ults when it comes to teamfights. So I was talking about how you can use the Sunder. The Trank's going to be hard to teamfight into, but these are not going to be up here post level 10 here. So this is a situation where even though I say that Divine 9 has the better late game comp, excuse me, right now they're down the ultimates to prove that. And there they goes the engage.
Fantastic job there of isolating Thrall. The Apocalypse does come out. It does hit quite a few there, but it looks like Thrall is going to be a getaway. Tranquility does come out. Lunar Flare onto Kael'thas, and it looks like both teams opting to go their separate ways here. Muradin doing a great job of positioning, zoning out, and this is going to be 1 altar each in this engagement.
And that damage, somebody aggroed the boss, which caused the cleave to get onto the backline as they moved in there for Divine 9. That actually really hurt their team. That boss in the early game, even in the late game, it absolutely destroys, and it ended up chunking enough their health bars that even though they were down or had an ultimate advantage, they weren't able to walk away with the win there on that team fight. I would have liked to see them push it a little bit harder here, but they're going to look to get an engage up here. 5 versus 4. Fall said yet to fly in this engagement, and the Sunder, the ring also coming out, going to be missed here, Josheb.
It is indeed. It looks like a great engage there from Jaina. The Gus does manage to save the team, but it looked like Divine 9 was in a bad way there. Jaina is doing an excellent job of making sure that she capitalizes on her Blizzard. It is a long cooldown ability, and she is hitting multiple people every time she throws it down, despite the smaller radius.
No, she's definitely ensuring the fact that her team wins that team fight, scaring Kael'thas out of that. But again, the power spike for Divine 9's composition is yet to be hit. 13 to 16 is where it definitely comes into play for them. So they're soaking as best they can. You see Kael'thas in the upper lane, Falset in the mid lane. They're trying to soak every lane that they possibly can while getting the Merc advantage. But a lot of it's going to come down.
We're all in a lot of trouble here. Great invade. It looks like they are not going to get the Lunar Flare this time, which is going to cost them. They do manage to steal the camp, however, and Tranquility does come out. I'm confused by the Tranquility right there.
Honestly, it was one of those things where he understands a team fight might pop, and so he wants to make sure he gets it out before anything too crazy comes out. Thrall actually risking the 1 versus 5 on the lower half of the map. They escorted in. It's going to go off. And so 13 tier advantage is going to be reached for them. They do disengage from the fight, but you are right. It's essentially just popping that Trank a little bit too early there. What that is going to do is essentially, again, it's such a long and powerful cooldown that now they have a 60-second advantage where they possibly could lose the later game fights that we were talking about here from the Mile High Club in their early game composition. I would suggest they try to trade here just because they don't have that ultimate. As long as they save, have you noticed we've seen Sunder and everything be popped separately? Actually, they're going to fight.
It does indeed. Speaking of Sunder, Sunder does come out. The Apocalypse goes out as well. The Ring of Frost hitting multiple people. It does look like they immediately are going to get a pickup there. It is a 2-for-0 so far, and it doesn't look like they're done yet. The Shadowstalk does come out. It looks like Kael'thas is trying to get away. Lunar Flare hits, and he is not going anywhere, but back to his Nexus.
Yeah, and that was a really great APOC there in the chokehold, hitting 3 people with a great the Ring of Frost coming in to ensure the fact that people are going to go down. Really good job from LOL. I'm a wizard. Really living up to his wizard name there. They do end up getting the 4 shots here. The talent tier advantage is going to be still almost dead even race here. Structurally speaking, it's almost dead even as well for both teams, and a lot of that came down to, keep in mind, number 1, Malfurion still hasn't taken his 13 talent, so he did not have Ice Block if he is going to take it as an option for that team fight. 2, what I wanted to kind of talk about is how we've never seen the use of Sunder and Malfurion's Tranquility almost ever at the exact same time. And I feel like a lot of that comes down to why they're losing these team fights, is that they just are not looking to take the fights as a unit. They're very like, oh, they popped APOC, we're going to kind of counter engage, but then it's like it just feels like they aren't moving as a unit. And Divine 9, it's why they're behind in this game. And keep in mind, the XP is almost dead even here. Creeper getting a little bit of hypey. But he is going to walk away from this, and this camp's going to go for My High Club. But a lot of it just comes down to not taking fights as a team here for Divine Nine. I still believe in their comp, and I still believe they can win this game. Like I said, the snowballing later game shots, it all comes down to who can win the late game team fights, and that, in my opinion, is still Divine Nine.
It does look like the Mile High Club is going to try and escort these minions to that fort. They do want it. They do miss the Lunar Flare there from Tyrande, and it looks like this is going to be something of a stalemate. They are going to manage to get these mercs down before it hits the Divine Nine fort.
Yeah, really good job defending that there. That fort would lead to another shot for them, but in the
Up
mid
here
lane,
in the
Kilthas
mid.
getting a little bit hypey. Nice disengage. He's going to go in. He doesn't have the root yet. The Blizzard going to come out, and that's going to be a dead Kilthas.
Yeah, I don't think Kael'thas is going to be able to survive that onslaught. I'm really liking the aggressive rotations here from the Mile High Club. I think Divine Nine needs to give a little more forewarning when people are missing. Either that or Kael'thas is not responding quick enough, but either way, that's going to turn this next engagement into a 5v4.
Absolutely, and that's something to look out for, and they should not be taking this Thrall. Definitely going to be thrifted. Oh, the APOC ring.
The three-person ring, absolutely devastating. It does look like Falstad is going to be able to get off a Gus before he goes down, but he does indeed go down. The Shadow Stalk coming out. It does not look like they're done with this engagement yet. They do continue to aggress here. He does get Muradin trapped, but he manages to dwarf toss away, and they're going to be able to steal that. In the interim, it does look like White Rice is going to go ahead and pick up the other altar, and that is going to give them a huge lead going into the 16 tier.
Yeah, and they're going to get the 16 race. They have only 8 shots left on their opponents. They haven't had to worry about anything. It is interesting structurally that there hasn't been anything taken really for either team. They're just worried about the shots rather than trying to maximize the value elsewhere on the map. But honestly, it doesn't really matter here. Mile High Club walking away with a really big advantage when it comes to the shots to the core. And I'd like to talk about a little bit of how we've seen from Divine Nine, not a single tribute spawn or shrine spawn, except for the first 2. Have they had all of their cooldowns or all of their people alive for? There hasn't been a single one. They have the weaker early game comp, and they lose the first 2 because they have the weaker early game comp. Makes sense. Every point past that, they've been down a man. Here he goes once again.
In so much trouble. He blows his Wind Fury escape a little bit early. It does look like he's going to get cut off here. And Thrall in abject horror as he tries to beat his personal best track time. But it looks like he is going to pop his Sunder as a last-ditch effort to get some damage out for his team.
And it's going to be the same story. 15 seconds, you're going to hear the big bell go off, and guess what? The Shrines are spawning once again, guys, and we're going to see they're down. Now they're down Sunder. He popped that during his death, so it's got a 50-second cooldown. Isn't going to happen during that time. What I'd like to see out of Mile High Club here is them capitalize on structures, like trying to take that fort during that downtime. Here they go back out, try and take the mercs, abuse their advantage as best they can, but it's just the same story over and over again when it comes to Divine Nine, never having all their cooldowns up when the fight happens. Here we go. Shrine spawn, 22 seconds. Sunder's not up for 32, so there will be roughly in this amount of time an 11-second difference between when the shrine spawn and when Sunder is up.
Kael'thas is getting a little too close for comfort here. I was worried that the Blinding Shield was going to come out and reveal his position and dismount him, but it does look like luck is with him right now, and he does manage to pull back in time. The Owl is going to reveal Muradin along with Kael'thas. They know exactly where they are. They're in the boss pit. The dismount occurs. Here comes the Phoenix. Here comes the ring. It does not manage to hit anyone, but oh my goodness, another deletion from Kael'thas. The Apocalypse comes out. That is going to be the life of Falstad, and it looks like this is going to be a 5v3. This time, we do get a well-timed heal, but the stun, the Lunar Flare does come out. The Dwarf Toss comes out. The boss has been aggroed. LOL, I'm a wizard taking a lot of damage, but it does look like she is going to be able to get away here. Plague as well does manage to scurry on away. That is going to be 4 hits left on the side of Divine Nine as Mile High Club heads down for what will be the final altar unless Thrall can pull off a miracle.
Yeah, this is going to be GG there. And keep in mind, the boss was actually aggroed at the beginning of that fight. And it actually took Muradin. It soloed Muradin 50% of his maximum health. He tanked every single auto attack except for the last auto attack that it killed Malfurion. Every single hit was onto him. So not only was the blow up on Kael'thas right out the gates, not only did they not have the Sunder at the direct beginning of that team fight and everything else, a lot of it came down to Muradin was getting absolutely bodied by that boss. And Mile High Club running with the double tank, double support composition and walking away with a win. I felt like a lot of it, I harped on it all game about how it kind of felt like Divine Nine just weren't on the same page when it came to their composition. Talent choices being a little bit unique. No ice block as well being taken, but honestly, I don't feel like that was the reason the game went the way it did. I very much just felt like every time Divine Divine Nine never took a fight where they actually had a chance to win it, right? They just never had like, okay, we have our ults, you have your ults, let's go battle. It was always like, well, we're down 1 to 2 ults, we're down 1 to 2 people. Hopefully we can get a fight where it's not going to hurt really bad. But you're facing Diablo Tyrande, you're going to have a bad time. And so really well done from Mile High Club. Again, them walking away with a pretty convincing win that game, only giving up, I believe, 4 shots, 13-0, and they're going to move on to the next round.
They are indeed. You know what? Let me double check just one thing. I agree with everything that you said there. It does appear that Divine Nine staggered their ultimates so much that they never really had a chance when they were heading into the team fights. I feel like that was absolutely the largest problem that they had there. It's really difficult to overcome the gigantic team fights, the ones that are so focused in these small intensive areas. I think things could have been so much different if we hadn't seen the overextensions from Thrall that did cost his team having the Sunder for a lot of those big engagements.
Yeah, no, I think